Virmani was our chairman, you know him, and Sujit Bhalla was our advisor. So Dr. Ashok Vishandass is chairing the session. So Dr. Ashok Vishandass, should I briefly introduce and then probably I'll
Yes.
hand over the
Yeah.
session.
Good evening to one and all, to our Indian friends and to our friends from our neighborhood, Bangladesh. And it's my singular privilege to welcome Professor Mustafizur Rahman. As Professor Charan Singh, my senior colleague, has said earlier, Dr. Sujit Bhalla was to chair the session, but due to certain inevitable and unavoidable circumstances, he is not able to come. And I am no substitute, but let me try to do the job because it's very challenging to fill in his shoe. Anyway, Professor Rahman, it's my singular privilege to welcome you, and Professor Rahman is currently serving as Distinguished Fellow at the Center for Policy Dialogue, that is CPD, a leading think tank in South Asia. He is also a member of Board of Trustee of CPD. Earlier, he served as ED of CPD from 2007 to 2017. That is about a decade. He taught for 25 years of the at the University of Dhaka before taking voluntary early retirement to work full-time at CPD. He was awarded the prestigious Abraham Memorial Gold Medal by the University of Dhaka for excellence in research. Professor Rahman served as member of Dhaka University Senate from 2009 to 2013 and 2017 to 21, and from 2021 till now. He is a member of Board of Trustee and Syndicate of BRAC University. In recent time, Professor Rahman has carried out a number of research work in the areas of public policy analysis, macroeconomic management, and macro fiscal monetary performance of Bangladesh economy. Some of his very recent works have focused on implication of the COVID pandemic on the Bangladesh economy and Bangladesh strategy in view of LDC graduation. As part of academic and research careers, Dr. Rahman has worked on a diverse range of issues, including trade policy, trade reform, globalization, regionalization, and regional trading arrangement, connectivity in the South Asian region, WTO multilateral trading system, and interests of low-income countries, and implementation challenges of the SDG in Bangladesh. Professor Rahman has published widely in professional journals both in Bangladesh and abroad, and has authored books and monographs in areas of interest and expertise. He is a senior editor of South Asia Economic Policy Studies, published by Springer, and members of editorial board of the Rising Towers and Global Governance. So he has see the list is very long, but I don't want to stand between our audience and Professor Rahman's expertise. I will straightway request him to kindly give the presentation on on the subject, on this thing, and I'm sure our audience is eagerly waiting for you. So Professor Rahman, the floor is yours now. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair, for this very generous introduction. I appreciate that, and I appreciate this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on a very important issue for my country. And I am very grateful to EGROW Foundation, to the board, particularly Dr. Charan Singh, who requested me to share my thought on this very important issue, and the audience who have joined. I can see some of my old friends also. So my presentation today will focus, as the title says, on Bangladesh's upcoming LDC graduation, challenges and opportunities in going forward. And I will, Chair, how much time I have? About half an hour, is it?
Yeah, you can, Professor Rahman, you can take up to 45 minutes also, and we can have about 10-15 minutes for the Q&A.
Yes, yes, yeah, that would be nice. Okay, so my presentation is divided into 5 parts. I will first briefly speak on the context, and then second is what I think are the drivers of the journey towards LDC graduation. The third, what are the implications of LDC graduation for my country, for Bangladesh? Then I will speak some of the emerging challenges that I see as we move towards LDC graduation, which will take place in November 2026 finally. And then some of the challenges that LDC graduation and how we are thinking of addressing those challenges. So in 5 parts, very briefly, with regard to the LDCs as a group, it is a group which was identified by the United Nations back in 1971 among the developing countries as a substrata of countries which would need special treatment and support, international support, in order to undertake their developmental journey. So this subgroup consisted of 25 developing countries and were termed as least developed countries. Bangladesh became a least developed country in December 1975, but we applied immediately after our liberation. Our founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, decided that we will join it. As you may know, joining the group is voluntary. Graduating out of the group is mandatory. So, for example, Zimbabwe didn't agree to join, but I think it was a wise decision of our father of the nation that he decided that Bangladesh should join, because we will get additional support from the international community. So we became a member in December 1975. To be eligible for graduation, the countries have to cross 2 of the 3 thresholds of graduation. I will come in a minute, which are those. Or the per capita income should be double the threshold for the GNI income. So these are the criteria for graduation. Till now, only 7 countries have graduated, and today there are 45 LDCs. So this also speaks about the international support measures. It started with 25 countries and only 7 countries could graduate, and now we have 45 LDCs. 12 of these LDCs are at various stages of graduation. Bangladesh and Nepal from South Asia are to graduate on November 24, 2026. Bhutan has graduated in December 2023. Before that, Maldives had graduated in 2011. So that's the scenario from South Asia. So when Bangladesh and Nepal graduates, then it will be only Afghanistan which will remain as an LDC. So in SARC. LDC graduation criteria 3, as I said, GNI per capita 1220 USD, but it is not nominal USD. It's according to World Bank Atlas method. So for comparability, so it's not nominal. And then human asset index has to be 66 and above, and economic vulnerability index has to be 32 and below. So GNI per capita, as I said, according to Atlas method, it has to be 1220, and it's a moving average. It changes every year. The CDP reviews the GNI per capita, but the HAI and the EVI have been fixed in 2012. 66 and above and 32 and below. And the human asset index, it includes health index and education index, under 5 mortality, prevalence of stunting, maternal mortality ratio, gross secondary enrollment, adult literacy rate, and gender parity. These are the 6 indicators. And economic vulnerability and environmental vulnerability index It has two sub-indices, economic vulnerability index and environmental, and they also have 4 and 4 sub-indices. Share of agriculture in GDP, remoteness and landlockedness, merchandise export concentration, share of population in low elevated coastal regions, share of population living in drylands, victims of disaster. So these are the vulnerability index. So every year, the Committee for Development Policy, they estimate based on various evidences and data, what are the ratios, and then they come up with this number. Bangladesh first crossed this number in 2018. The system is that you will have to cross it twice in triennial reviews. So Bangladesh was supposed to graduate in 2024, but all graduating LDCs have been, the graduation has been deferred because of the COVID by 2 years. That's why Nepal and Bangladesh will be graduating in 2026, not 2024. In fact, Nepal first was eligible in 2015, but because of the earthquake, it was considered for the first time in 2018. So Nepal and Bangladesh will be graduating on 24th of November 2026. Bangladesh is a major, the first major graduating LDC to be more precise, because if you look at the 7 LDCs which will be graduating in the coming years, you will see that Bangladesh is an outlier in one sense. If we look at the 7 graduating LDCs, you'll see that Bangladesh is in terms of GDP, in terms of export of goods, export of services, import of goods, import of services. It dominates among the 7 graduating LDCs, in fact. And also to tell you, the 7 LDCs which have earlier graduated, their total population is only 6.3 million. And Bangladesh's population alone is 170 million. So it gives you some idea about the fact that it will be the first major LDC which will be graduating, and that's why it's under the radar screen. What happens? A lot of interest with regard to that. As we speak now, if you look the bottom bullet, per capita income of Bangladesh in October 2023 was USD 2643, HAI was 76.3, much higher than 66 and above, and EVI is 26.6, which is much lower than 32 and below. So obviously Bangladesh is according to the criteria, Bangladesh has crossed all the 3. Indeed, Bangladesh is the first country, LDC, which will be graduating by meeting all 3 criteria. Generally, the criteria is 2 out of 3 for graduation. For example, Nepal, it has crossed the threshold of HAI and EVI, but not per capita income. But it is graduating, 2 out of 3. Now, what have been the drivers very quickly? If you look at the decadal progress of Bangladesh in terms of the major indicators, you will see that Bangladesh has made impressive advancement with regard to many of the key indicators: export, import, per capita GNI, remittances, etc., etc. And obviously has made a very crucial transition from a predominantly aid-receiving nation to a trading nation. Today, Bangladesh's export of goods and services is about $85 billion, and our aid is about $10 billion, so 8 times. Even in 1990s, the ratio was 1:1. So I think the key drivers was obviously high and low volatility GDP growth. That was very important in terms of taking us to where we have come. with regard to the three LDC graduation indicators. Tangible improvements in socio-economic indicators. That's why HAI and EVI, our performance have been good. The Human Asset Index and Economic Vulnerability Index. As I said, a shift from predominantly aid-receiving country to a trading nation, a shift from subsistence agriculture to commercial agriculture, a shift from process-based export, jute-based export to raw jute export to manufactured-based export. 84% of our export is ready-made garments, and 90% of export is manufactured export. So that is also something which has created employment and income augmenting opportunities and enable the country to invest also in health, education, and other things. So Bangladesh is also has a strengthened presence in the global job market and apparels market. Our remittance earnings is about $22 billion annually from overseas jobs. And apparels, Bangladesh is the second in the world after China, 7% of the global apparels market. All these factors have contributed to the dual graduation. Dual graduation meaning that not only we are graduating from the LDC developing country group to non-LDC developing country group, but we have also made a crucial transition from low-income country to lower middle-income country status in 2015. That is the World Bank criteria, and LDC is a UN criteria. So I think that these have been the key drivers as we have gone over the past several decades. We have been LDC for 50 years, as I said, 1975, we were eligible for being an LDC, and now 2026. So almost 50 years. And because of the drivers, as I mentioned, we have been able to do that. Obviously, we are looking forward to it. Bangladesh celebrated its graduation when it was announced by the CDP, Committee for Development Policy of the UN, and when the UN decision was taken that Bangladesh will graduate in 2026. This is also branding of Bangladesh. This is also, when you go to international, financial markets for borrowings and a better credit rating, an attractive destination for FDI. Graduation also tells that it has large middle class. Even if it is a 10% middle class, we are talking about 17 million people. So obviously, these are the opportunities which Bangladesh should take advantage of. But then there are many challenges, because we will not be eligible for international support measures, which we have been accustomed to over the last 5 decades. So obviously that is a major challenge. Bangladesh gets preferential market access, duty-free, quota-free in almost all developed countries, excepting US, where ready-made garments, our major export, is not provided duty-free, quota-free. Otherwise, in EU, in Canada, in Japan, we get duty-free because we are an LDC. And not only in developed countries, but also developing countries like India, like China. India provides duty-free, quota-free market access for all products of export from Bangladesh under its LDC scheme, excepting 25 liquor, arms, etc. So that is also that has also, in fact, been very helpful for our competitiveness, because we don't have to pay the high duties. Generally, textiles and apparels tend to have high duties, and that is our major export, and that get preferential treatment. So this is very important for us. And also there is concessional financing also for LDCs. So a lot of international support measures, more than 70% of our export gets duty-free access in various countries. We get preferential treatment under about 41 LDC schemes, including that of India. So all these will not be there beyond 2026. So obviously it will have important implications for Bangladesh. So international support measures will this is specific international support measures will not be there. So it will have implications both in the domestic space and in the global space, because it is just not market access. It is also policy flexibilities under the special and differential treatment. There are LDC specific special and differential treatment in the 16 WTO agreements. So all these will not be there. When these will not be there beyond November 2026, obviously there will be impact in the domestic space with regard to policy making, more compliance with the WTO agreements, and enforcement, policy flexibility with regard to subsidies, with regard to support, etc., to our export industries, to our domestic industries, etc. And also in the global space, obviously in the global space, it is the terms of market access. There will be no duty-free, quota-free, which we are currently getting. And also in dealing with various partners, we will have to deal on the basis of reciprocity, because we get the treatment as an LDC as on the basis of non-reciprocity. We don't have to give anything, but we get duty-free, quota-free, and other international support. So that will be the major challenge, the 4 blocks which I showed. And also, as we are moving towards 2026, we are seeing emerging challenges also. There are rise of protectionism in various countries because of the COVID, post-COVID, Ukraine-Russia war, export ban, etc., etc., import restrictions. And with regard to support, we are seeing that humanitarian support versus developmental support. In humanitarian support, a lot of money is going over there. Geostrategy and geoeconomics is also changing around the region. There is one for Bangladesh. On the one hand, there is our proven friend India. On the other hand, we also have a lot of economic relationship, investment relationship with China. There is also in the region the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, 15 countries which provide preferential access to each other. We are having to compete in those countries. Then also the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP, where Vietnam is a member. So what we are seeing is that as we will be losing our preferential treatment, we will have to face our competitors who are getting into various regional arrangements and will enjoy preferential treatment. For example, Vietnam has signed a preferential treatment with EU. So just imagine, now we are not paying the 12% duty in EU, but on the other hand, we also the Vietnam is paying, and there will be a situation when Vietnam is not paying the duty, 12% duty, but Bangladesh should be paying. So there will be a gap of about 24%. So the whole thing is changing, in fact, around the region. So Bangladesh will be graduating at a time when the global scenario, I would say, is not very favorable. On the domestic front also, in spite of the impressive success, I see that the rising income consumption and asset inequality could be a drag on Bangladesh's future growth. So averages are good, but beyond and below the averages, we see a lot of distributive injustice. So that could be a drag. The other, obviously, is the domestic resource mobilization is very low. So if we want to face LDC graduation, we'll need our own funds, and our tax and revenue GDP ratio is only about 8.5% of GDP, lowest in South Asia. So that is a major concern for us. Labor productivity in agriculture is very low, 42%, producing only 12% of GDP. So we are far from the Lucian turning point. Growing debt service liability, as we have invested a lot in our infrastructure. Going forward, the debt servicing, I think, will be growing also because of the current macroeconomic situation, particularly after the Russia-Ukraine war. Our reserves have now come down from $48 billion to $21 billion. Taka has depreciated from 86 taka to a dollar to 111 taka to a dollar. So all these, the macroeconomic scenario which we are passing through is not very encouraging right at this moment. So debt servicing liability as percentage of GDP may be very low, but or export and remittance earnings. But if we consider, for example, reserves, obviously that could become a problem. So and also we have to be very careful with regards to the middle income graduation. Because of the middle income graduation, the costs of borrowings have also gone up. So that is something that we will have to be very careful about to avoid middle income trap. So both the LDC graduation and the middle income graduation, we will have to meet both the challenges. The cost of borrowings will go up. Duty-free, quota-free, market access, preferential treatment, etc., will not be there. So this is now. We also see that that there is less appetite in the international community also to go for support for the graduating LDCs. I'm coming in a minute with regard to that. Bangladesh government is preparing, in fact, for that. Our 8th five-year plan, 2021 to 2025. Is an LDC graduation preparedness plan. That's how it has been designed. And the Prime Minister's office has also set up a graduation graduation strategy, and it's preparing various policy document. So that is the government side. The challenge is to now make the next transition. We made one transition from aid-driven economy to a trading economy. Now the transition has to be from market access, preferential market access-driven economy to competitiveness and skills and productivity-driven economy. That is, in one sentence, the challenge that awaits Bangladesh. But as I said, November 2026. So we now have three identities. One is we are still an LDC. The second is we are preparing as a graduating LDC. And the third is we are future developing country. The third one is very important because that's where the future lies. But we have to take advantage of whatever we have now to prepare. We also have to take advantage of the WTO various initiatives for sustainable graduation. There is the LDC summit in Doha in 2023 March has come up with a plan to support the graduating LDCs, but our point is that we don't see any concrete measure with regard to that. And the ministerial conference is coming, the 13th WTO ministerial conference in Abu Dhabi. It will be from 26th to 29th of February, just a few weeks from now. The graduating LDCs are hoping that there will be some time-bound extension of the duty-free, quota-free, and other international support measures. But I personally am not very hopeful. But let's see what happens. There is a proposal there, which the graduating LDCs and the LDCs, other LDCs have submitted in order to continue the the international support measures, duty-free, quota-free market access for a few years. Already, European Union and UK have indicated that they will extend it for 3 years. So in European Union and in UK, Bangladesh will be enjoying duty-free, quota-free market access till 2029. But the other countries have not yet provided any indication with regard to that. There are precedences in WTO where they have extended some preferences when countries were graduating. Maldives, when it was graduating, the TRIPS implementation was deferred by 3 years. We have also seen that some of the countries, as I said, European Union and UK have indicated that they will extend the preferential market access for another 3 years. So there are some countries. So there is an attempt in the context of the upcoming WTO ministerial conference that whether we can have some time-bound extension. But we will have to prepare for the worst scenario, thinking that there may not be any concrete decision with regard to that. There was also some proposal with regard to a debt relief initiative for the graduating LDCs to support sustainable graduation. A graduation support fund was proposed. So there are a number of proposals in the WTO. But as I said, that I am not very hopeful that something concrete will come up in MC13 in Abu Dhabi. So how to prepare? First of all, there are inbuilt in the WTO some support measures which graduating LDCs can enjoy. As I said, EU and UK, I have already mentioned. There is aid for trade support, which we can get for another 5 years after graduation. Then there is an LDC development, the LDC fund, which we can have projects. If we have projects now, they can be extended beyond. There is a technology bank for LDCs from which we can get support 5 years beyond graduation. So there are some inbuilt support measures. But we have to be prepared, as I said, because of the middle income graduation. We are now a blend country. The non-concessional part is going up. Concessional loans are no more available because of our middle income graduation. So Bangladesh will have to be very careful to avoid lower middle income trap and upper middle income trap. And I have given this for some of the countries which have been there after graduating. They have fallen into trap, the middle income trap, the debt trap. So this is something we will have to be very careful, which means that taking borrowing money, the cost of borrowing money, the terms of borrowing money, these will have to be very carefully crafted. Just to give you one example, how the loans that we have taken in terms of LIBOR and SOFR, how these have fluctuated. So some of the flexible LIBOR and SOFR +1, +2 percentages will go up. Now, I think that there has to be some elements, a number of elements, strategic trade policy, which is not dependent on duty-free, quota-free market access, but dependent on productivity, skills, and domestic capacity building of the institutions which are dealing with various reforms. Because if you look at the LDC graduation criteria, they don't talk about structural impediments. HAI, EVI, all these are good, and GNI good, but some of the embedded structural weaknesses and institutional weaknesses that we will have to increase because there will be a lot of obligations and compliance requirements under the various WTO agreement. I think that the triangulation of the investment connectivity that we are now putting in place, then the FDI, and trade. So this will be very important for Bangladesh in going forward. Well, our FDI is very low. Last year, net FDI was about $2 billion only. So export 85% is ready-made garments. Only 12% of export is to South Asia, ASEAN countries, and Southeast Asian countries. Only 12%. Although we import about more than 65% from these regions. So now that our investment, a lot of investment under the 3 lines of credit of India also, worth $8 billion. We are building a lot of infrastructure. I think that one of the key strategies will have to be regional integration, closer cooperation with regional countries, particularly also with India, sub-regional cooperation. I know that people, I think, I saw among the participants, CARS has done a lot of work also in these areas. So I think that is one area to translate our comparative advantages into competitive advantages. However, technological preparedness is still at low stage. The new opportunities, the new economy versus the traditional economy. We are still in the 4G and the internet penetration, etc., is very low. Although we have world's second largest freelancers, and according to some estimates, one of the first 20 business process outsourcing countries, but we are very low in the ladder. I think that we will have to take a number of reforms, trade and investment reforms to attract FDI. I think that there is an implicit anti-FDI bias in our policies. So I think that is something which we will have to tackle because as I can see, productivity and skills, these will be very important as we go forward, and we don't want also a jobless growth. So diversification of the economy, bringing in more FDI. Bangladesh has offered 2 of its special economic zones to India, 1 to China. A lot of interest over there. We are now trading also energy with India. So many things, connectivity, coastal shipping arrangements. So a lot of things are going on, but the dots have to be connected in order to tackle our post-graduation challenges. I think that is very important. And it has to be just not based on the markets. It has to be regionalism versus regionalization. I mean that, when countries open up, there is a more connectivity with neighboring countries. But regionalism, I mean that there has to be conscious policies to make it work. So this is something which is very important. Integration with Southern Asian markets, deepen regional cooperation in transport, in FDI, in trade, in logistics, trade facilitation. We will have to build regional value chains and production networks. Very weak till now. Although, as I said, because of the infrastructure investment, heavy investment in infrastructure, many things are there now. Now we will have to take the second steps. I think that is very important. The other, I think, in going forward, that it has to be also inclusive. Now, the government's 2041 vision talks about an economically developed, socially inclusive, and environmentally sustainable Bangladesh by 2041. So, if that be the case, then LDC graduation strategy and SDGs, which talk about leaving no one behind, inclusive growth, all these will have to come together. A major issue which now Bangladesh is facing is obviously, as I was mentioning, is the low productivity, low skill, less diversification of the economy, not only exports, but also of the economy itself, and a lot of import because of that. As I was mentioning, currently, many of our competitors are getting into various FTAs and comprehensive economic partnership agreements. But Bangladesh only has a PTA, preferential trading agreement with Bhutan, with which our trade is only $20 million. So now Bangladesh is now contemplating comprehensive economic partnership agreement with India. The study has been completed. So all these will be very important. China has also come up with a proposal to have an FTA with and comprehensive economic partnership agreement. Bangladesh is now negotiating various things. With Indonesia, with Sri Lanka, etc. So I think that will be very important in order to prepare for the post LDC world, where there will be no preferences, no preferential treatment. Another area which I think is important, because the ministerial conference of the WTO is coming, is to start to think as a developing country, rather than depending on preferences and arguing for graduation support, etc., which of course we will have to continue. For example, in the WTO, the agreement on fisheries subsidies, Bangladesh will have to be thinking about a developing country, from a developing country perspective. The agreement on agriculture. So all in all these negotiations, I think that Bangladesh will have to wear the developing country hat, because and there the position of India, the position of Brazil or South Africa, Bangladesh should really focus on those and where the developing country interests are, and also going for alliances, issue specific alliances with the developing countries, including India. I think that will be very important. My last point is that if that be the case, Bangladesh should prepare very carefully for the future negotiations. As they say, countries get not what they deserve, but what they negotiate. So negotiating capacity will be very important as we go forward. For example, with India, which, as I was mentioning, whether it will be on a reciprocity basis or less than reciprocity, what are the offers, what are the requests, what are the offensive interests, what are the defensive interests. I think that Bangladesh should now start to think as a developing country, and how to negotiate as a developing country. Of course, we hope that with regard to India, there will be various give and takes, and also maybe a two-track negotiation. So that is one issue. We will also have to face a lot of disputes as a developing country in the WTO, because no one wants to bring cases against an LDC. But once you are a developing country, there are many cases in the WTO dispute settlement. So all these will need to prepare. And my suggestion is that there has to be a negotiation cell in the Ministry of Commerce, like the WTO cell, so that we can negotiate with our partners. So my final point is that I said that currently we have three identities: as an LDC, as a graduating LDC, and as a future. But I think that the third one is very important, and all the reform, the policies and steps should be geared towards that identity, when there will be no preferences as an LDC, but we will have to compete on equal footing, and we will have to remain competitive in the global goods and services market. So that is the final slide, and I stop here, and I could see that there are a number of questions were put, because I could not read that, but now if colleagues can share their questions, we can have a discussion. Thank you very much for kindly listening to me.
Yes, thank you, Professor Rahman. It was a very comprehensive presentation. You covered the depth, and the width was very fascinating. and I think you have presented in a very limited time almost everything which is very important. So I'm sure
Thank you.
we got benefited, our audience got benefited. Now may I request our CEO Professor Charan if he has any question or comment, and then I will ask one or two questions, then we'll switch over to our audience question. So Professor Charan.
Professor Rahman, I second what Dr. Vishandass is saying. Very comprehensive. And before you started, I was wondering what is the line of argument that you're going to take, but you covered it so well that I really want to thank you for your presentation. Now, there is a responsibility added now with you graduating from LDC to a developing country. There's obviously going to be some responsibility on your shoulders. Or call it like this, the infant industry model, or now that Bangladesh has graduated, there are going to be fresh set of challenges which will come from advanced countries. How you prepared? Also, the sources of funds. Sources of funds will also be arranged. So far, the rest of the world was very keen to pour in money, but now with you becoming a non-LDC, you will have to arrange financial resources. And now there's nothing like you, big brother, small brother. Now you are sort of an graduated adult. What would be the status of the stock market? What's going to be the status of the markets, financial markets? And how are you going to fund your new industry? Because that's what has really helped you graduate, exports and MSMEs. And so those are some of the challenges as an economist. How do you plan to take them forward?
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Charan. Yes, I think your questions are very important, and these are also some of the issues which keep us awake during night. I will start with funds, which is very important. You see, I was mentioning that our domestic resource mobilization is only 8.5% of our GDP, lowest in the developing world, lowest in South Asia. So obviously, and 1/3 of that is only direct taxation. 2/3 is indirect taxation. So obviously, we'll have to go for more direct taxation and raising more domestic resources. Of course, stock market, you have rightly mentioned, banking sector rightly mentioned. Both of these in Bangladesh are in what, how should I coin it? Is not in very good shape. 10% of the outstanding loans, bank loans, are now bad debt. Although according to the Basel III, it will be about 20%. Our stock market is not functioning very well. There are lots of problems over there. So I think that reforms are very important. And the government, which has been elected on the 7th of January, now the government is committed, and also its election manifesto is committed to undertake the reforms. And we are, as you know, under the 3-year IMF program also. We have taken $4.7 billion from IMF, and many conditionalities also came through that. So we are we hope that these issues will be tackled. International funds, as you have rightly cautioned, it will become more costly. No grant, less concessional, more non-concessional. So that's a major challenge. Already we are witnessing that Bangladesh is now a blend country, and in near future we will be mostly non-concessional. With regard to the the support that we have been giving the infant industry argument, of course, as an LDC, we could give a lot of support to our industries, but now it will become difficult. I will give you just one example. Last week, the government had stopped giving the subsidy, the incentive we call it, to the ready-made garment sector as a preparatory step towards graduation, so that it is not at 24th of November 2026. So obviously, all these will have implications with regard to the support that we can give and which we could give as an LDC. So in all these fronts, as I said, the government, the Prime Minister's office has set up a very high-level committee. There are 7 subcommittees. The issues that you have raised, there are specific subcommittees on those issues, how to identify the roadmap, how to implement, etc. But the challenge is in implementation. That is the issue that we will have to tackle. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Charan, for very insightful questions, and that really benefited me and our audience. I'm sure they must have been benefited by the response we got from the speaker. And thanks, Professor Charan. Professor Rahman, I think you again, this was a kind of icing on the cake, what you said, and then you made my 2 very quick questions, Professor Rahman.
Yes.
One is, you said the rising inequality is a drag on future growth. Now, all said and done, whether you graduate or anything of that sort happens, at the end of the round, to my mind, creation of wealth and distribution of wealth, that is what is important for the common citizen. So how do you balance? Because if it is inequality is rising, maybe you are creating the wealth, but the distribution remains lopsided, then it will not percolate to the last person in the country, because to me citizens are very important. That is question 1. And another which is related to this, triangulation of 3 pillars of growth, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability. So how these are balanced? And one small clarification I would like to say, when I compare India and Bangladesh, say on textile, for instance, India is a very formidable producer of raw cotton. We somehow export a lot of cotton, but Bangladesh export more the textile, the garment, and then it is performing much better, much better than India. Though we are resource rich in the sense that we are a very significant producer of cotton, yet we are not able to perform well in the trade of the textile. How Pakistan is doing? So I would be grateful if you can throw some light on these aspects.
Thank you, Chair. I think all the 3 questions are very important. Obviously, yes. You see, of course, wealth will have to be created in order to be distributed. You are very right. And growth with equity, with distributive justice is also very important for the citizens. And now, those in the audience, we know that there is theory, inverse Kuznets curve. Countries as they grow, first the inequality could rise and then inequality will fall. So we have to be, we have to live with some type of inequality. No one is talking about socialism here. I'm not talking about absolute distributive justice, but when we see that the country progresses, but the income Gini coefficient increases according to Bangladesh's own government figures. It has increased between 2010 to 2016 to 2022, the last his household income and expenditure survey. We see that it increased from 0.41 to 0.46 to 0.499. So income inequality is increasing, asset inequality, consumption inequality is increasing. That creates tension in the society. But as an economist, I will also argue what is now being argued by many scholars, including Danny Roderick of Harvard University, that countries which grow with less inequality grows faster than countries which are growing with more inequality. And that is because when you have more equality, you have more aggregate demand, and it is an incentive for the producers also to create the supply. So I think it is very important that we have not only growth but also with some distributed. And that's why I was mentioning about domestic resource mobilization, direct taxation. That's how you have inequality in the first round, then you redistribute by taxing those who have higher income through direct taxation. Even in India, direct taxation is 50% of your domestic resource mobilization. In Bangladesh, it is still less than 1/3. So I think that these are the policies which we will need to pursue in order to have a more equitable growth. Now you are very right. Growth, social inclusiveness, and environmental sustainability. Obviously, environment. Bangladesh is one of the world's most environmentally susceptible country, and we have a lot of coastal region, and what impact it will have on agriculture, agricultural practices. This is a major issue. What will be the internal migration? So Bangladesh is trying to do that, and this is a challenge. There are trade-offs, obviously, but mitigation and adaptation, international support. The COP, which has come up with this support fund, talks about the support fund but doesn't generate the support fund. So I think that this is very, very important that we are sensitive to the fact that growth has to be environmentally sustainable as well, and also social inclusiveness. That is, but as I said, there are trade-offs, and the policymakers will have to deal with that. With regard to textiles, yes, we import a lot from India, cotton. I think that India domestic market is huge, and Indian entrepreneurs have concentrated on the domestic market till now. But I see that there is some change. India also trying to get into the global market of apparels. It's about $750 billion. China is 31%. Bangladesh is 7%, second position. Vietnam is third with 6%. India is still somewhat lower, but as you are very right, a country which produces cotton has a natural advantage than a country which is dependent almost 100% on imported cotton. Bangladesh obviously is world's #1 cotton importer and #5 cotton user. So obviously India has a lot of advantage. I think from my readings is that Indian policy was to keep the textile sector as a labor-intensive SME, but I can see SME-oriented. But I can see that in Bangladesh also we are seeing there is a trade-off. It's the large farms with high productivity, labor displacing technology. Women. Just to give you one data
example,
which is that the percentage of women in our ready-made garment sector, apparel sector, used to be 90%. Today, as we speak, it is 64% only. You see, because the big ones which are more on productivity, more on technology, more on skills, there is a very negative implication for gender, participation in the labor market. So this is also another. I think India wanted to avoid that. It wanted to keep it more labor intensive, and so it had implications for competitiveness, etc. But I see that there are some shift in the Indian policy also, and maybe that India could become a major competitor of China. China's share has come down from 39% to 31%, and it was Bangladesh, Vietnam, to some extent India also, which took advantage of that. But China is vacating the global space from the lower end and the middle end, and India obviously has a lot of capacity in design and fashion, etc. So I don't see any reason why India will not become also a major ready-made garments player. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. It was very insightful. Let us take a few questions because of time constraint. I will not be able to take all those, but let me see. Some people are saying the methodology and what is the status of HDI and PDI. 4 areas are not clear. So if the engagement with India, now this is a question by Bipul. If the engagement with India in trade has increased your competitiveness, what is the opinion or view regarding the recent India boycott campaign in Bangladesh? Is there any take on this, Professor Rahman?
No, I think that India is a major partner of Bangladesh, and as I was mentioning, the 3 lines of credit and the infrastructure and then other developmental works which are going on. I always mention that it took Bangladesh about 46 years to cross $1 billion of export to India, and it took 5 years to cross $2 billion. But $2 billion is still very small. Import from India is about $15 billion. Export is only $2 billion. There are a lot of opportunities. I think India imports about $750 billion. So why only $2 billion from Bangladesh? Is because we don't have the supply side capacities. And if 84% of our export is ready-made garments, we can't hope to export ready-made garments to India in a big way. So it's export diversification. It's competitiveness. It's attracting FDI from India, targeting the Indian market, taking advantage of the duty-free, quota-free, and preferential treatment that we have.
Yes.
I think that is how I look at it, and I hope that the policymakers who are also thinking about this comprehensive economic partnership agreement with India, which may be signed in a couple of years, maybe. I think that they are also thinking on that line. With regard to Indian boycott, Bipul, I don't think that it has any resonance among the common people. We import from India because Bangladeshi consumers and importers find it more competitive. You see, it's not that they love Indian exporters or etc. As India has grown, we have found India to be more competitive than Germany, than UK, and the Indian export, it grew from 2 billion to 3 billion, and now to 15 billion export to Bangladesh. So I don't see any resonance among the common people with regard to this. Yes, some people are trying to do that, but it's a fringe. It is not anywhere near mainstream.
Yeah. Another question by Mr. S.N. Singh. Population growth is another factor affecting development path, particularly sustainable development. So if you can say,
Yes, You see, with regard to population growth, obviously 170 million people in 144,000 square kilometer. And Bangladesh is the world's most densely populated country in the world, excepting the city states. But Bangladesh has made remarkable achievement in this area. I must say, our total fertility rate used to be more than 6. Our population growth rate used to be 3.5%, and now the TFR, total fertility rate, is I think 2 point something, and the population growth rate is 1.4%. So we have been able to really, at our independence, Bangladesh had more people than West Pakistan, and today as we speak, Pakistan has more people than Bangladesh. So that is one success that I can mention. So population growth is no more a major factor in Bangladesh, although I must say that it has now come 1.4% is now at a stable rate. But it is the quality of the human resources, the demographic dividend. We had the demographic dividend for 30-35 years. Now only another 20 years, this demographic dividend. So how to prepare our young people, good education. In terms of education, very good, but in terms of quality of education, skills, we have a lot of problem in those areas.
So, though there are many questions, Professor Rahman, I will pick up the last one because of the paucity of the time, though there are many things. So let me pick up one last question by Mr. Kirpa Shankar. MSME energy intensity is one of the key in development, which is the result of technological upgradation in different sectors. MSI infra is very standardized and near to sustainability reporting. Kindly brief on above if possible. You can throw some light on MSME energy issue, the intensity.
Yes, thank you. This is one question for which I am not very well prepared. But from my general understanding of the Bangladesh economy and the energy sector development and how it is going, one major concern in Bangladesh obviously is the energy policy. Here a lot of issues are coming up. Coal-based energy. We had a plan to have 10% of our energy from clean sources. We are now maybe, I think, 3 or 4%. So energy intensity, clean energy, all these issues are becoming very important. Also, I think that one issue is environment and energy. Major debate in Bangladesh is that we have one of the world's best quality coal reserves in Bangladesh in 4 regions, but we are not extracting those because of environment. But on the other hand, we are now importing a lot of LNG, liquefied natural gas. So a lot of debate going on with regards to clean energy and whether we have the money to invest there, or we should go for our own coal resources and what technology we should use. So I don't know specifically about MSME, but in general, energy efficiency is becoming a major issue in Bangladesh. Government is trying to calibrate policies in order to incentivize more clean energy, rooftop solar paneling. There is also some investment in wind energy. Not much in solar energy till now, but government is planning. So these are some of the plans that I know. But in general, as I was mentioning, energy efficiency is becoming a major issue, particularly also because of Bangladesh's growing dependence on LNG import and the dwindling forex reserves. So this has become a major issue in Bangladesh right now.
Thank you very much. And I think all good things in life come to an end, and today's session is no exception. We really were our knowledge base had a quantum jump in understanding our friendly country, very close friend Bangladesh and India. So if we see the history, we had very cordial relation. Now I got an opportunity to know more about our friend, our neighbor, and through you. So thanks indeed for all your intervention, all your presentation, and this was very rich from the perspective of academic rigor, and otherwise your rich experience in having worked in the Bangladesh economy. My deep apology to all the audience whose question I could not take up. Each question was very relevant, but I could not take up because of paucity of time. So my unconditional apology. Maybe Professor Charan Singh has some announcement to make before we formally wind up. Professor Charan Singh?
Chair, can I just
Sure.
1 second, which is that thank you very much once again, and EGROW Foundation for creating this opportunity. Obviously, India remains a major development partner and a proven friend of Bangladesh, and I hope that our bilateral relationship will deepen in the friends who you could not give time. My email is mustafiz@cpd.org.bd. If you have any question, please, I will be very happy to share my opinion with regard to those. Thank you.
I was about to suggest the same thing, but I thought Professor Charan perhaps has certain announcement to make, and then I will formally extend my sincere thanks. I have not yet expressed my thanks to you.
Right.
I want to really thank both of you, Professor Rahman and Professor Vishandass, for chairing the session, giving your thoughts and sharing your vast experience with us. As Dr. Vishandass said, we have to close because we're already way beyond the time. The questions, as you saw, were very interesting. And I must mention that quite a bit of our audience listens to our recordings on Saturdays and Sundays. And you can expect more thoughts from them. We'll put the recording on our website tomorrow. And we're going to share this with some of our dear friends who work on SAARC countries and all that. Now, Professor Rahman, I totally agree with you. We are also exploring possibilities of a relationship between SAARC countries. Actually, EGROW Foundation has an aspiration to be sort of a lighthouse in the region. And this whole region, we think, has many more stories as well as many more examples for the rest of the world. The least developed countries, you are graduating, so congratulations, welcome. But many countries are looking at you, many countries looking at us. In case of India, we are now in a process of developing an India growth model, which some chapters we already have on our website. You're welcome to see the working paper on by Dr. Arvind Virmani on India's growth model. We have done seminars. We are in the middle of writing a book. Dr. Vishandass, me, we are all contributing a chapter there on telling the world that India's growth story can't be ignored. And we are bouncing back because we have some fundamental strengths in our growth story. And we want the advanced countries like America to look at India's growth story. We want least developed countries to look at India for the India's growth story. So we have something very exciting coming up. And therefore, I say our relationships, our cooperation, coordination, and our symmetric research is really important for the rest of the world. So we look forward to building bridges with you and cooperating and seeking cooperation, contributing to research effort in the region. Now, I must mention one more thing. Next week, same time, we have a beautiful webinar on power sector reforms from Professor Rosso from CSIS, Washington, DC. And then next week, we have another excellent presentation on drugs in India. And Punjab is the one which is most abused and accused. But in India, we are looking at 5 different states. The authors are going to present their study on drugs. And a week after that, we have a discussion on the Finance Commission. So the Finance Commission, as you know, in a federal structure, is responsible for sharing of resources between the federal, state, and the provincial states. So look forward to some exciting webinars in the next 3 weeks. I must mention this, that EGROW Foundation is making an effort at financial literacy. Every evening online, 7:30 to 8:30, we offer some classes. Next week, we are starting on basic contemporary issues on Indian economy, where we will cover fiscal policy, agriculture, monetary policy, financial system, health, and all those issues. So I'm requesting each one of you to take advantage. The fee is very nominal, which we waive if somebody cannot afford it. And if somebody can, we just ask for a very nominal fee. We pay the speakers, and therefore we also need some resources. So I would request all of you, welcome you, to please enroll, share it with your students, share it with other faculty to enroll for EGROW's financial literacy programs. With that, let me once again thank Dr. Vishandass for chairing the session, participants for asking such wonderful questions, and most importantly, Professor Rahman for sharing his research with us on graduating of Bangladesh into a non-LDC country. Congratulations, Professor Rahman. You are graduating upwards after COVID. There were many countries which would have graduated downwards. Only shows your resilience, good policies in your country. So congratulations for that. There are additional responsibilities, as we have discussed. You are already ready for it. We look forward to close partnership with countries, research efforts with institutions.
And let me say the last thing, Professor Charan and Professor Rahman, I am today reminded of William Shakespeare, who said, uncomfortable are the head that wear the crown. So you are going to wear the crown, though it will be uncomfortable, but it's welcome. And I'm sure India and Bangladesh will swim together.
Thank you.
So with this, and it was a very stimulating discussion, and I will cherish this discussion today's evening for a long time. And thanks indeed to you, to Professor Charan, and everybody. And our success depends on our audience. They are a wonderful audience all the time, because we have already conducted more than 200 such webinars without fail. So every Friday. Our audience is our support. Of course, our speakers like you are a great support. So thanks indeed to everybody.
Thank you very much.
With this, we end, Charan.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.